Yo, what's up guys, Alf here, and today I'm going to be doing my very first video on the No Ban This historic event that's going on right now. So before I get into that, I just want to quickly say sorry for not getting any vids out the past couple of weeks. I have been grinding a ton as usual, mainly in Alchemy and Historic, and I've got a ton of decks on the go that I'm working on, but I just haven't been able to get any of them to a point where I'm completely happy with. Definitely still going to be working on all those decks, and I'm probably going to be trying to push for rank 1 at the end of the season again if I can, so definitely expect some more full deck guides to come. But in the meantime, I've been having so much fun playing this No Ban This historic event. So if you're not familiar with it, it's basically an event that's running on Arena right now, where it's historic, so all of the cards on Arena are legal, and everything is legal to play. There's no banned cards, so you can play Oko, you can play Demonic Tutor and Channel and Lightning Bolt, and it's been so much fun to brew in and play. So if you guys are interested, definitely let me know in the comments. I have so many deck ideas that I'm happy to just post them. And the other great thing about it is that it's all access, this event. So you don't need to spend any wildcards. You can just play any of the decks for free as well. So I'm going to be playing so much of this for the next couple of weeks. And I've got loads of decks that I could easily cover. So definitely let me know in the comments if you're interested in seeing more. And I'd be really excited to do that. The really nice thing about this event is that, like I said, it's all access and you can play any of the cards. The one downside for me is that it's best of 1. I would really like this event to be best of 3. The most annoying thing about it being best of 1, other than, you know, the usual best of 1 things like play draw being a really big factor and, you know, a lot more variance being involved, is that I do think the channel decks are quite oppressive in the format. Now, channel is definitely the best card in the whole format, in my opinion. But I don't think I'm going to cover any channel decks when I'm covering these decks, because I just don't think those decks are particularly fun to play with or against. But having said that, I do acknowledge that they're kind of the gatekeeper of the format, so every deck that I do post will have ways to beat channel, right? I think no matter what deck you're playing, you do need to have some way to beat channel, or that matchup is just going to be miserable. But anyway, let's just get straight into it, starting off with this deck that I've been having a ton of fun with. So this is basically a combo control deck that is built around cheating Primeval Titan into play off Transmogrify and Indomitable Creativity. So if you look at the deck, the only actual creature here is Primeval Titan. So the idea here with Transmogrify and Creativity is we create tokens, target them with the Transmogrify or the Creativity to cheat Primeval Titan into play. Now, as I mentioned, we are a control combo deck. So the general way that this deck is going to be playing out is that we have a lot of counterspells, so we're going to be holding open interaction to counter what the opponent's doing. I think counterspells in general are really good in the format right now because most of the decks that I've faced have been control, combo, or mid-range. There have been very few aggro decks, and even if you do come up against an aggro deck, getting an early Transmogrify or Creativity into Primeval Titan is often just going to be good enough to stabilize you anyway. But I think counterspells are really good, so you basically want to hold up interaction in the first few turns, then take a single turn off to use Transmogrify or Creativity to cheat Primeval Titan into play. And then Primeval Titan gets us Field of the Dead. So Field of the Dead, another banned card that basically, once we get this into play alongside 7 unique lands, it starts just producing a bunch of tokens for us for free. So we take a turn off to get the Primeval Titan into play, and then if we have counterspells, we can just back up the Primeval Titan to protect our board, and then we just keep attacking with the Titan, get more lands into play, trigger Field of the Dead a bunch, get a bunch of zombies into play, and then attack the opponent. But if we run out of counterspells and we have more Transmogrifies or Creativities, Primeval Titan getting Field of the Dead into play produces more tokens that we can then target with Transmogrify or Creativity. So even if we don't have any more counterspells to back up our Primeval Titan, if we have more Transmogrifies or Creativities, we can just use them on the Field of the Dead tokens to cheat more Primeval Titans into play, get even more lands, and then just completely, you know, swarm the board with zombie tokens. So this deck has felt so much fun, and it's been really strong as well. So let's have a look at the specific cards. So the counterspells we've got in the deck, starting off here with Memory Lapse. So this is another banned card that's so powerful, particularly punishing if the opponent's missing land drops, because you just, you know, basically draw lock them for the turn. And this is basically a good tempo play, unconditional counterspell against everything. The main reason that I'm running this over actual counterspell is just because I don't think the mana base can really afford to cast it, right? This mana base, you really don't want to be running more than 1 of each land if possible, because if you draw 2 of the same land, then it takes even longer to get Field of the Dead online, which is an issue. So we're running a lot of 1-ofs in the mana base. We also need triple red on turn 4 for Creativity as well. So I really don't think we can afford to have double blue on turn 2. You know, we struggle to get double blue on turn 3 for Trickery. We can just about do that consistently, but I really don't think we can get double blue on turn 2 for Counterspell. But Memory Lapse still works really well. The other thing that's worth noting is that you could consider swapping this out for Spell Pierce if you want, if you wanted to hard target the channel decks, because the issue with 2-mana counterspells against channel is if you lose the die roll and they have turn 2 channel into Ulamog or something, then there's nothing you can really do about that. But for that to happen, you need to queue into a channel deck, lose the die roll, and let them have it on turn 2, which I really don't think is that likely. You know, even though Channel is definitely the most powerful thing in the format, most people are still playing other decks as well. So I think Memory Lapse is more versatile. But if you wanted to hard target the Channel decks, definitely consider swapping this out for Spell Pierce. Then we've also got Flip the Switch and Saruman's Trickery. So these are really nice because they're both counter spells that also produce creature tokens. So they enable us to counter something on turn 3 and then just go Transmogrify or Creativity on turn 4 immediately. And then we already have a token in play in order to target with the Transmogrify or Creativity to cheat the Primeval Titan into play. Flip the Switch is generally the worst of the two because it's a conditional counterspell. If the game goes on long, the opponent could potentially pay for this. And the 2/2 token can't attack without dying as well. So Saruman's Trickery is generally the better card because it's unconditional. And the Orc token can attack as well. But obviously Flip the Switch is easier to cast because it doesn't need double blue. But having the redundancy for this sort of effect is really nice. Gives us a high density of counters and allows us to do these really strong plays where we counter something on turn 3 into a Transmog or Indomitable Creativity on turn 4. Then in terms of other token generators, we've also got Careful Cultivation, which is really nice because it not only produces a token for us to use with Transmogrify or Creativity, but we can do it at instant speed, so we can hold up counter spells on turn 2, flash this in at the end of the opponent's turn, and then we can also use this to Transmogrify or Creativity on turn 3, so it enables us to get Primeval Titan out on turn 3, which is really strong. So Careful Cultivation, really nice to get these turn 3 Transmogrifiers or Creativities. And the other nice thing about it is that we can also use it to just hardcast the Primeval Titan. One of the big advantages of running Titan over something like a Traxor or Serra's Emissary is that it's a lot easier to hardcast, and Careful Cultivation enables us to hardcast this on turn 5, which has come up in a decent amount of games. So Cultivation, really nice as a turn 3 enabler and helps us hardcast the Primeval Titan. And then we've also got Oko, Thief of Crowns, which is, the most broken Planeswalker ever printed, I think. And it's just really good on its own right, great at just producing a bunch of creatures to get into play. Also just insane at elking the opponent's creatures. I've managed to beat Channel decks multiple times by the opponent getting out an Emrakul, and then me just going Oko, use the +1 and turn it into a 3/3 to just completely ruin their aggressive game plan. But the other really nice thing about Oko in this specific deck is it's a really nice enabler for both Transmogrify and Creativity as well, because we could go Oko on turn 3 and +2 to create a food token, and then that's a target that we can just use with Creativity to cheap Primeval Titan into play. But if we have Transmogrify instead, on turn 4 we can just use Oko's +1 to turn that food into a creature, and then just use Transmogrify on the Elk as well. So Oko, obviously just an incredibly powerful card in its own right, but it also works really well with the Transmogrify Creativity game plan. Then in terms of the mana base, we've got 26 lands plus the 2... Oh, I didn't talk about Jari Disruption, I forgot about that one. So this is basically another counter spell, obviously a lot weaker than the other ones because the opponent can pay 1 to negate it, but very, very good to just increase our density of 2 mana counter spells to be able to stop whatever the opponent plays on curve. And we can also play it as a land as well. With a Field of the Dead deck, 26 lands is a little bit low, so Jari Disruption just acting as extra land drops when we need is really nice. And it also counts as another individual unique land to enable our Field of the Dead earlier as well, which is really nice. So Jari Disruption, really nice at just ensuring that we keep hitting land drops, which is very important in this deck. We do need to consistently hit our 4th land on curve for Transmogrify or Creativity. And if we do want to hardcast the Primeval Titan, we do want to hit our 5th and sometimes even our 6th land on curve as well anyway. In terms of the mana base, as I said, 26 lands plus the 2 Jari Disruption has felt like enough overall. And because we're running Field of the Dead here, we do want to run as many single lands as possible, because like I said, drawing 2 of the same land does delay our ability to get Field of the Dead online, which can be a big issue, especially if we're relying on the zombie tokens in order to stabilize. So that's why we're running a bunch of 1-offs here. We do need to run a few 2-offs to consistently enable the mana base, because one of the issues with having to run a lot of 1-offs and Field of the Dead, which is a tapped colorless land, is it is then tricky to have triple red for Creativity and double blue for Saruman's Trickery. But I feel like the mana base does achieve that consistently. I haven't run into too many issues not having these on curve. In terms of the lands themselves, like I said, mainly 1-offs here. We have got a couple of the shock lands and the triomes, and then 3 Field of the Dead has felt like the right amount. I don't think you need 4, and drawing this is pretty awkward. It's fine to have on turn 1, but if you need triple red for the Creativity, you need to have all of your other lands producing red. And I did test 2 Field of the Dead, which I think 2 is reasonable, but I have felt in a few games where I probably would have lost without the 3rd Field of the Deads, specifically against stuff like opposing Ugins. You do need to be able to, have your lands produce 3 tokens to force them to use the minus and stuff like that. So 3 Field of the Dead has felt like a good amount. Last thing I want to talk about here is why I'm running Primeval Titan over other Creativity targets. So other than the fact that we get to run Field of the Dead in this event, so that's a decent reason in and of itself just to test it out. But I do like Primeval Titan here over stuff like Atraxa and Serra's Emissary because, first of all, I don't think Atraxa is that great in this deck. We do have a decent number of card types. I mean, Atraxa obviously would be good, but it's a lot easier for the opponent to interact with. You know, the really nice thing about Primeval Titan getting Field of the Dead is unless the opponent has land destruction, it's really hard for them to stop our board state, whereas with Atraxa, if the opponent has one piece of removal, then we're kind of back to square one again. Then we have to get off another Transmogrify or Creativity, whereas Primeval Titan, getting a Field of Dead in play, basically then turns all of our future land drops into gas, if that makes sense. As I mentioned earlier, being 6 mana and double green as opposed to needing 3 colours makes it a lot easier to hardcast as well, which is really nice off the Careful Cultivation. And it's just really nice at closing games out as well. It snowballs the game so quickly. So if we do manage to get Titan into play and then back it up with counterspells, it's so hard for the opponent to beat us, attacking them with the Titan and then just producing, you know, 4 or 6 zombie tokens every single turn. And then the fact that the Primeval Titan produces zombie tokens then makes all of our future Transmogrifies or Creativities live again, because, you know, a pretty common play is Transmogrify the Primeval Titan into play, then get a bunch of tokens off Field of the Dead, and then just Creativity for X=3 to get the other 3 copies of Primeval Titan into play, completely swarming the board. And then finally, the other nice advantage over something like Atraxa is that it's non-legendary, so we can just go Creativity X=2 or X=3 and get all of the extra Primeval Titans into play. In terms of Serra's Emissary, I think there's so many decks that are capable of removing it. You know, all the channel decks have access to Khan, which is going to be able to take it out. So overall, I do think, even though, you know, it's a good reason to be playing Primeval Titan because we have access to Field of the Dead here, I do think it's potentially the best Transmogrify Creativity target that we have access to in this format anyway. So that's the deck. Like I said, I've been having so much fun playing this one. And next time I've got some gameplay with it so you guys can see it in action. Definitely let me know in the comments if you want to see more decks like this, because I've got a ton in the works. And I hope you enjoyed the gameplay. Big up. Okay, sweet. So going first here, and don't think we can keep that one. Got a lot of Transmogrifies and no ways to enable it. This definitely happy to keep though, right? We've got, you know, as long as we can hit our 3rd land, we've got Careful Cultivation into turn 3 Transmogrify or Creativity here. Well, assuming we hit a a red land for our 3rd land, we can go for Creativity. But yeah, turn 3 Primeval Titan is pretty good. Hopefully we're not against the channel deck, because that could potentially be a way for them to beat us, but Thoughtseize is pretty... okay, Dark Ritual. I was going to say Thoughtseize isn't that great against us, because we have, you know, redundancy for both pieces here. Wow, okay. Double Dark Ritual. What have they got? Ha, okay. Turn 1 Shieldred. That's not a bad start for the opponent. So we'll run out the Spy Bluff Canal here and then just Careful Cultivation at the end of their turn. Obviously do need to draw a 3rd land, but we are running a 26 land deck. I think the chances of us doing that are pretty high. So, you know, turn 1 Shieldred is obviously really good, but if they don't have anything else, I do think turn 3 Titan could potentially beat a turn 1 Shieldred here. Okay, sick. We hit the land. I don't think we can afford to play around Fatal Push here. We just have to go for the Transmogrify and hope they don't have it. Going to go for the Transmog first because Creativity is generally better once we have Field of the Dead online, because we can go for X=2 more easily. So definitely want to go for a Field of the Dead, and then I think... what else do we want to go for here? Probably... Gonna just go for a Ketria Triome here just to enable our mana base. Could have also gone for one of the fast lands, because then, you know, that's a land that we don't particularly want to draw now that we've got some lands in play. Okay, Undercity Plunder. I think I'm just going to pitch the Cultivation and not do anything else here. And if they attack with the Shielded, I think we have to let it through. It is kind of scary going down to 6, but... you know, we don't really have a good follow-up play. We'd need to draw an untapped land in order to cast this other Primeval Titan in hand. It is a bit annoying that we've drawn both of the Stomping Grounds here, because now we have to get an extra land in play to get Field of the Dead online. So I'm going to attack with the Primeval Titan first here. You know, if I already had an extra unique land in play, I'd probably play the Mountain first, just to get more zombie tokens, you know, because then we could fetch another Field of the Dead. So I think I'm just going to go for a Steam Vents and a Copperline Gorge here. Obviously not going to pay for the Steam Vents here. And then I can play the Mountain, which gets a token in play, and then... I mean, we could just cast the second Primeval Titan, but we can go Creativity X=3 here, right? I just need to count it up. So we got... yeah, we can go for X=3, and hopefully take out the opponent's Shieldred, and then that's less pressure on the opponent's life total. We get 2 more Primeval Titans into play. Okay, sweet. We didn't hit another Shieldred. They do get a 1 ring in play, but they don't get the protection here, which is pretty huge. And then we just get 2 more Primeval Titans into play. We can get 2 Field of the Deads off this first one, right? And then that'll get us a bunch of zombie tokens here. And then we just get, you know, 2 more lands off this other Primeval Titan. And now, unless the opponent has like another 1 ring here, we should be good, because even another Shieldred doesn't get it done. You know, we'll stabilize at 2. So they basically need a board sweeper to stabilize his. So we might actually beat turn 1 Shieldred, which is, you know, not an easy feat. So we'll see what the opponent's got. I think the only thing they can... Well, I mean, we don't really know what they're playing, but I feel like the 1 ring is the only thing that can really save them here, right? We've got 24 power in play just off the zombies alone, and 2 Primeval Titans as well. Plus, we got another one in hand to cast, so... Okay, okay, that's not going to get it done. And opponent just scoops it up. Sick. Beat the turn 1 Shieldred. That's not bad. Okay, so we're on the play here, which is great, obviously. And yeah, I think we can keep this right. We got Lapse on turn 2, into Oko, into Transmogrify, assuming that we can hit our 4th land on curve. So yeah, this one looks pretty sweet. And being on the play is obviously huge when we have Memory Lapse. Okay, Bant has Thought Seize, so I presume they're going to take the Lapse or the Oko here. Yeah, they take the Lapse, so that's not great. I mean, that does leave us shields down, but we still have Oko into Transmogrify. But the fact they took the Lapse probably means that they've got something impactful to play on turn 2 here. See what it is. So another Oko is not the worst, obviously, but we would have preferred to have a land. Okay, assemble the team. So probably on channel if I had to guess. And there's not really a great way we have of stopping that. Okay, we did draw the 4th land, which is great. So we can go Oko, make a food, and then next turn we can turn the food into a creature and Transmogrify it. Now, obviously against a black deck, they could very well have Fatal Push, but it looks like they're probably on a channel deck, from what we've seen so far anyway. And the channel decks don't tend to run Fatal Push. It's mainly just discard spells, tutors, channel, and then top end stuff. So we do get to get off the Primeval Titan here, which is pretty huge. So we can plus the Oko, turn the food into a 3/3, attack the opponent down to 13, which does then make channel worse if they are on channel. You know, we kind of presume they are from what we've seen so far. They might not be, we'll have to see. But yeah, we get Titan to play, we can get Field of the Dead here, and then just another land. We've got to make sure it's not the same as one of the lands that we already have in play. Just going to get a Spire Bluff Canal here, I think, to, you know, because the fast lands we don't really want to be drawing at this point anymore, so might as well get them out of the deck. But yeah, now we have a decently fast clock, right? We've got another Transmogrify, so if we start producing Field of the Dead tokens off the Primeval Titan attack, we can, you know, Transmogrify another Titan into play, get a bunch of zombie tokens, so... Opponent is definitely under pressure here, but they have also, you know, tutored twice, so I assume they have whatever they're looking for here. Maybe channel, I mean, channel into Ulamog would be rough, right? They can go channel Ulamog, and then exile. I guess they have to exile the Oko here, right? Because otherwise we can just Elk it. So they'd go Oko Field of the Dead. Oh no, they just go Oko Primeval Titan. And then we kind of be in trouble. I guess we can go Careful Cultivation into Transmogrify. Although, wait, they only have 13 life here, though. Okay, channel Demonic Tutor. So they obviously have a target for their channel here. Emrakul the Promised End. Oh, okay, it's reduced. I was going to say, surely that would have killed them. So they survive at 1, but they do get to take control of us this time. So what's the worst they can do here? I mean, they can use Oko to Elk our own Primeval Titan, which is kind of funny. I guess they should Legend Rule the Oko as well, right? Cast a second Oko, +1 to Elk the Primeval Titan, but even then, I think we've got a pretty good follow-up, because we get another turn afterwards, right? That's how Emrakul works. The opponent controls us for a turn, and then we get another turn, I think. So we can just use our Oko to Elk their Emrakul, and still just get another Primeval Titan into play, so... Unless the opponent has used 3 tutors, so there's a chance they might have channel into something else. I guess they're at 1 life though, right? They can't use channel anymore, so... Oh, wait, they can... Yeah, okay. I forgot, they can attack with Primeval Titan, and choose to not put any lands into play and then just block with Emrakul. Sure, so that's one way of doing it as well. And then they just presumably pass without using the Oko here, because they can't use any minus abilities. But I still feel like we've got a decent follow-up, right? We've got Careful Cultivation into Transmogrify here. We can obviously use Oko to Elk their Emrakul as well. So we'll lead on the Cultivation here. And... oh, wait, I should have played the land first. That was my bad. So I should have played the Chivalry first and then got 2 Field of the Deads here. So now I guess we've got to go Field of the Dead and another land, but... yeah, so that was just a missequence by me. If I'd played the Chivalry first, we could have just got 2 Field of the Deads and got even more zombie tokens. Well, the big difference here is we would have had the 3rd Field of the Dead in play, but... yeah, okay, opponent just scoops it up, so we managed to beat Channel there. You know, that's the thing, if you can apply pressure, they don't have enough life total to pay for the Channel properly. Okay, so we're going second here. And I mean, we obviously don't have Transmogrify creativity. If we can draw one off the top, this hand's great. I think I would maybe keep this one if I was going first, because, you know, Memory Lapse into Oko is pretty reasonable, but I think going second, I'd probably have to mulligan this. Okay, sweet. This is a pretty good replacement, right? We've got basically the same hand, although actually we don't have any green sources here. I think we still have to keep this, though. We do have a decent number of green sources. Just trying to think what we want to put back. I mean... I think it's between Oko and Cultivation. I think probably Cultivation. Cultivation is only better if we draw a green land in the next 2 draw steps, whereas Oko gives us another look at it. Okay, now we've got Saruman's Trickery. That's decent. So as long as we can find the 4th land here, we can potentially go Trickery into Transmogrify and not even need Oko. Okay, so opponent's on Sultai. Just passes it back. Primeval Titan obviously not great here. Just going to run out the Chivalry and pass it back. I mean, the other nice thing about drawing Primeval Titan is if we can get the first one off, you know, if we can Transmogrify into a single one, even if the opponent kills the Titan that's in play, you've ramped up to 6 mana, so you can then just hardcast any other ones that you've drawn, which is really nice. So opponent on Bowmasters, which, you know, our deck just doesn't care about Bowmasters at all, which is obviously great. Okay, opponent tries to go for Oko. We'll definitely lapse that for sure. So Oko is obviously very good against Primeval Titan, but like I said, if we can... if we can get off the first Transmogrify, that then enables us to cast the second Primeval Titan from hand. And then once we get Field of the Dead online, obviously turns on our future creativities and Transmogrifies. So Oko is only really good once we don't have Field of the Dead online. So going to Trickery. I mean, obviously Oko is good anyway, but once we start getting a bunch of tokens in play, then we can just attack down the Oko anyway, is what I'm trying to say. So we didn't draw the 4th land, which is really rough. We do have another Trickery, but that's not obviously great when, you know, it doesn't make a new token, right? It'll just make the 1/1 into a 2/2. So opponent goes for Brainstorm here. And yeah, I guess the game plan again is just hope the opponent taps out, Trickery something, and then just go for Transmogrify if we can draw that 4th land. And we do have a decent chance of doing it. Okay, I don't think it's worth using Trickery on Growth Spiral. If it made another token, then maybe, but... since the Amass just makes it into a 2/2, I think we'll just wait. Okay, opponent puts an island into play. Still got a land drop for the turn as well, I think. And there's Shocking Watery Grave, so that could obviously be a counterspell, which is kind of rough. They don't attack, which is interesting. We drew an Oko, which is not great. Just looking for that land, although now the opponent's playing with mana open, it's going to be a lot trickier for us to pull off the Transmogrify now. Again, I think we just got to hope that they tap out, we can counter something, and then just draw a land. Okay, they fail push the token. I think I'm going to let that go, you know, because if they do tap out for something main phase 2, then we can Trickery that, get another token, and then hopefully... yeah, perfect. So we get the cancel the 1 ring. We really want to see a land here now. Okay, perfect. Perfect. So now we can attack with the 1/1, Transmogrify... and now, not only does Primeval Titan get us, you know, just more lands in play to enable us to cast it, but it also gets us green mana to unlock the Titan and Oko in our hand. So I don't think I'm going to get Field of Dead. I think I'm going to get 2 green lands here. So if the opponent does have a way to kill the Titan, like the Oko here, then we can just hardcast this Primeval Titan from hand. Or we could potentially go for creativity here. Opponent does still have 2 mana open though, so if they do have a counterspell here, that's going to be a little bit rough. Interesting. So draw a disruption. So I think we can either go either go Titan or go creativity X equals 1 backed up by draw a disruption. I think I'm just going to jam the Titan here. Maybe it's better to go for creativity, but I feel like I ideally want to hold on to creativity for once we have Field of Dead online, just to push ahead, because they do have blockers plus Oko here, right? So, you know, it's not guaranteed that we would be able to attack down Oko if we just went for creativity X equals 1 here, right? Maybe it is, though. I don't know. Maybe that was greedy, because if they had counterspell here, we do fall behind pretty quickly. But, so maybe I should have just gone creativity X equals 1 backed up by Drari, but then we also wouldn't have had as many zombie tokens in play here to attack down the Oko, because we would have had to use Drari's, or held up Drari as a counterspell instead. Although I guess if the creativity resolves, we can play it as a land. So yeah, not 100% sure. Either way, opponent has rings, so we'll attack down the Oko here first. Since we're probably going to play our own Oko to elk their ring, I don't think we want to attack with everything, but attacking with all the zombie tokens should be good enough. And then just going to go Oko. Going to play the Oko first, because if they have Spell Pierce, I'd rather the Oko resolve, right? I don't want to let them untap with the ring. So we can turn their ring into an elk. And then we can just go creativity X equals 2 here on 2 of the tokens. Doesn't look like the opponent has anything. And then I imagine that should be it, right? I don't think they're going to have that much, you know, many good ways to stabilize, unless they have a sweeper here. Okay, opponent just scoops it up. Sweet, we got there. Nice. Okay, so we're on the play here. And yeah, this hand looks good, right? We have got cultivation into creativity, although it's a little bit awkward here because in order to cast the cultivation, we need to play the Dreamroot Cascade first, which means that we can't cast creativity on turn 3, right? Even if we drew a third red land, we wouldn't be able to do it on turn 3, but I think it's still fine, right? We can have both Droid Disruption and Cultivation up here, and then we can still creativity on turn 4 if the opponent doesn't do anything that we want to counter that turn anyway. So opponent plays Brainstorm, which is, you know, even if that card was legal in actual Historic, it would get farmed so hard by Bowmasters right now. So even though we can't creativity, I still think I'll use the Careful Cultivation here. Oh, well, Brazen Borrower. Okay, I wasn't expecting that. Okay, we drew another Careful Cultivation, which is pretty huge. So now we have another way to creativity here. So I'm hoping the opponent casts something that we don't care about. Wow, like an Uro. Yeah, we'll let that one go for sure. So if they are on just Simic, like the only thing that can potentially fizzle us here is like a Fading Hope. Okay, they play a Forest instead, so I think we should just be good to go for creativity here. Now that does mean that we do go shields down for a turn, so if they are playing sorry, I just got the, yeah, we want to play this on red so we can creativity later. But yeah, if they are playing channel, then that's going to be rough because they can obviously go for channel while we have the shields down here. And obviously we only have Droid Disruption here anyway, so even if they do have channel, I don't think we'd be able to stop it anyway. But it looks like they could just be playing like kind of a fair mid-range deck from what we've seen, you know, Uro and Brazen Borrower. Oh, yikes. Okay, there is an Oko, so they can elk our Primeval Titan here, but we can go for creativity here, right? We can play the Droid Disruption as a land, get a zombie token, and then creativity for X equals 2 to get 2 more Primeval Titans into play. So, and then that will get, you know, get the third Field of Dead online, get a bunch of zombies in play. And we haven't seen a third colour from the opponent, so, you know, obviously blue and green doesn't have the best creature interactions, so I'm hoping once we build up a big board, they won't be able to stop us at that point. We'll have to see, though. Okay, Memory Lapse is interesting. Now we actually have a hard counter spell, but I still think we just, you know, while they've got shields down, they could very well be running a lot of their own counter spells. We should just go for creativity X equals 2 now, you know. We can't go for creativity and hold open memory lapse. I guess we could go creativity X equals 1 maybe and hold open memory lapse. Actually, that might have been better. First, I miscounted my lands. I thought that I couldn't do that. I mean, either way, I think we should still be good. The only way we get punished here is exactly by channel, I think. Or if they've got, like, I don't know, a sweeper that we don't know about, like a blue bounce sweeper or something, but this is definitely the more fun line. So now we have 12 zombies in play, 2 Primeval Titans, so if the opponent has channel, they've kind of got to do it now. Okay, so they elk one of the Primeval Titans. Yeah, I definitely should have just gone creativity X equals 1 there. Going for 2 is overkill. Because if they are running some sort of combo, having memory lapse open this time would have been huge, obviously. But yeah, we'll see what they got. It does look, from what we've seen so far, they are just mid-range. Yeah, okay, so opponent just scoops it up, so we got there. Nice. Okay, so we're going second here. And this is kind of a weird hand, but I think I'm going to risk this one, right? Especially against the Yorion deck, because if we can draw a Transmogrify creativity in the next few draw steps, then we can go cultivation into, you know, turn 3 Transmogrify potentially. If not, we've still got counterspells into Oko, which I assume Yorion is going to be a control deck. That seems pretty reasonable against. And we've also got cultivation into a hardcast Primeval Titan potentially if the game does go long, so if we hadn't seen Yorion, there's a chance I might have mulliganed this one, but, you know, because it is kind of slow on the draw. But Yorion makes me think it's probably a control deck if I had to guess. Okay, we did draw the creativity, and we did get punished for playing a green land, you know, a non-red land on turn 1, but into counterspell mana, I don't even know if I'd jam the creativity here anyway, so Great Spiral will let that one go. Definitely want to hold open counters going into the opponent's turn. And I attacked there because, you know, we're not going to need 4 mana during our turn. Oh, wow. Okay, if they have Censor here, I might regret those words, but I think they're more likely to be playing just like hard counterspell if they do. Wow, okay, so they got Teferi into memory lapse, which is kind of rough. So now they can bounce our token, which takes us off creativity, which is pretty annoying. But we do get to resolve Oko, which is quite nice. So get to resolve the Oko here, get to make a food, which is obviously good fodder for the creativity. And then I think I'm just going to play the Drawry tapped here, right? I do want to keep curving out. And if the opponent does tap out here for something, we can potentially go Elk into creativity X equals 2. Sorry, not Elk. Make a food token. And then we have 2 creativity targets. Wow, opponent just completely taps out. That's so good for us. So now we can go plus make a food token, and then creativity for X equals 2 on turn 5 feels really nice. You don't normally get to do that. So, I mean, to be honest, even if the opponent hadn't gone shields down here, I think we're probably forced to just go for the creativity anyway. But yeah, now we just get to get 2 Primeval Titans into play on turn 5, which is really, really good against what looks like a control deck. So now we get Titan. We already have 5 lands in play, so I think we have to go... We could go double Field of the Dead here, but I think I'm probably just going to split it up over both the activations. Go Field of the Dead and the 7th unique land, and then just get the other 2 Field of the Deads off this second activation. So now the opponent needs a sweeper. I mean, they are playing white, so they could definitely have Wrath of God and Day of Judgment sort of thing, but, you know, when I was building control from playing this so far, I really didn't want to include that many sweepers in my main deck just because there really weren't that many go-wide creature decks. Wow, opponent just scoops it up. Yeah, I mean, they're going to struggle to beat that unless they can draw a Wrath. And in a Yorion deck, that's unlikely. Okay, so we're on the play here, and don't have any Transmogrify or creativity, but I think we can still keep this right. We've got a lot of counterspells and Oko, and if we do draw Transmogrify or creativity off the top, then it should be live in most situations, right? So we can lead on the Stomping Ground here and just shift it back, see what the opponent's on. Okay, also on a green deck. So, I mean, it would obviously be sick if we drew a Transmogrify off the top here, then we can go for a turn 3 Titan. Although opponent does, you know, obviously holding up counter magic mana here, so But either way, definitely going to go for the Careful Cultivation here. Unlocks a little bit more mana. Okay, Primeval Titan off the top isn't great here. I mean, if we can keep drawing land drops, then, you know, we can potentially hardcast the Titan on turn 5 off the ramp from Careful Cultivation. But yeah, definitely don't want to jam Oko into counterspell magic and want to hold open my counterspells as well. So just going to ship it back here. Okay. I mean, I'm kind of tempted to just counter this now. You know, slows down their ramp. You know, helps them find land drops as well. So I'm going to counter that, and then their shield's down. I'm pretty happy to go for Oko now. Okay, drawing another Titan here isn't great. Obviously, you know, I mean, again, if we can keep this, the Mana Dork alive, then we can potentially just, you know, hardcast one of these Titans. But if we keep missing land drops, it's going to be a little bit rough. Okay, but that's a second Uro. Wow, looks like they're missing land drops though. That's obviously rough for the opponent. So we're just going to keep applying pressure and hold open counter magic here. You know, even with these Titans stuck in our hand, I think Oko can just solo this potentially, right? We just get a 3/3 every other turn. Can potentially elk any creature that they play that's problematic. Okay, they're on a Wilderness Reclamation deck. Interesting. I'm also working on a Wilderness Rec deck. I really missed that card. It was so much fun. So now we create another food token. We are 1 mana away from potentially hardcasting one of these Titans, but I think we just want to keep draw locking the opponent. Like, this is the kind of situation where Memory Lapse is just the most horrendous card to play against, right? We can keep lapsing it. We know they're missing land drops. Like, I remember when Lapse was legal, I would be scared to cast a 2-drop on curve sometimes if my opponent had lapse mana, because if they memory lapse it and I miss a land drop, you just lose on the spot a lot of the time. So at this point, I think we can just attack with everything, because the opponent goes down to 2 here, and, you know, we've got another counterspell for their Reclamation. Yeah, okay, opponent just scoops it up. That just... I'm so glad memory lapse isn't legal anymore. Okay, sweet, we're on the play here, and yep, happy to keep this one, because we got flip the switch into potential creativity if we can find another red source. And even if we can't, we have decent counter spells here. Okay, sweet, we found the red source, so this does represent potential turn 3 flip the switch into turn 4 creativity, which is pretty sick. And then we also have decent counter spells to back up the Titan if we can set that up. Okay, opponent has Dark Ritual, so, I mean, if they storm here, then Memory Lapse won't be good enough. Wow, okay, this Memory Lapse feels brutal. So we wasted 2 of their cards and kind of draw locked them there as well. So I think we'll play the Carplusion Forest here and then counter whatever they cast this turn into creativity. So they do have the ring, and if they've got the 4th land, they can potentially cast it as well. That's a little bit awkward, so they don't actually cast anything that we can counter, but I mean, presumably they might just go land into ring here, in which case we can just counter into creativity anyway. Yeah, okay, so they try the ring again. Definitely counter that, and then we can just go creativity here, which is obviously sick. Oh, wait, we need to play land first. Whoops. So we go creativity. We've already got a Field of Dead in place, so I think we probably just want to go for 2 unique lands here. We could also, with this Ketria Triumph in hand, just go for a second Field of the Dead as well, but I think I'm just going to go for 2 unique lands here. You know, get the Field of the Dead online, get 2 tokens into place so that if they do have an answer for Titan and we draw another creativity, for example, we can just start attacking anyway. They got Extinction Event. That's kind of rough. So they do sweep our entire board, but wow, okay, we got another creativity. So we got Field of the Dead online. And going to go for creativity, obviously X equals 1 here. We can actually wait, we can go... I was going to say... we can go creativity X equals 1 and still hold open counterspell here, which is pretty sick. And okay, this is a spot where for this match, I wanted to test 2 Field of the Dead and see how it felt rather than 3. And it does feel kind of bad not having access to the 3rd here. Like, the main reason was because I was just drawing the Field of the Deads quite often, which was kind of awkward, especially with creativity. But, you know, I played a couple games with just 2, and I think I probably want to go back up to 3, just because it's way more explosive. You know, if the opponent does have, you know, powerful stuff going on, particularly if they're impacting the board, then only having 2 Field of the Deads does feel kind of underpowered. Like, we would have lethal here if I had that 3rd Field of the Dead, for example. So if they have another sweeper, it could end up costing us. So yeah, I think I will add the 3rd Field of the Dead back after this game. So here, I don't think it really matters what lands we get. Just going to put a couple of shock lands. Maybe I should have picked fast lands because they're worse to draw, but I don't think it should really matter too much. But yeah, we would have had lethal here had I had that 3rd Field of the Dead, so definitely think I should add it back in after this game. And then I think I'm just going to ship it back. If the opponent doesn't have another sweeper, I want to have cultivation. I don't want to waste Transmogrify because we have way more than lethal in play already, so... Demonic Tutor. So if they have another extinction event in the deck, then they can sweep the board. But then we can just win with the 1/1 off Careful Cultivation, which is kind of funny. So we'll see. Maybe they have a second one. Wouldn't surprise me if they did. Oh, they got Mizzix Mastery for Extinction Event, sure. So we should just win off the 1/1 Careful Cultivation so you can hear, which is pretty funny. But yeah, I think I definitely should be running 3 Field of the Dead because we would have easily won that game if I had access to the 3rd copy. So yeah, we just make a 1/1 here and then just attack for lethal. So we got there, nice.